So welcome back to this channel once again, and this is the second part or second video of the activation group in continuation. So in first part video of the activation group, we discussed the activation groups, their types, and they how we are gonna be using in the real time. Okay, so we saw different all those activation groups working with the create bind rpg or create rpg mod, create pgm or create SRVPGM things. Okay, now we will see that which activation group we will be applying in which cases. Okay, so we will be now picking up the activation groups which should be applied on our application. So we'll be deciding what activation group needs to be used. Okay, so now this is the most important thing. Now in first part you learn the concept of activation group, that is you are using an activation group, either a default activation group or a named activation group or a caller star caller or the new activation group. Okay, so I created various cases in the part 1 video to show you how those activation groups work. Okay, now in this video I'll be covering some cases to let you understand the most important concept of the activation group, that is when to use what activation group. Okay, and another thing which I'm covering is the storage model. Okay, so a storage model is also a very important thing which one must understand, because it plays a vital role in your ILE application. Okay, sometimes we saw that our program didn't get compiled just due to the limitation of that program exceeds. So why this happens, why actually our program won't be able to compile at that time? So we will be seeing the demo for this in a real-time situation. So I'll be creating a program using those storage model things. Okay, so there are various options for the storage model, like single level, which is a default. So this is with every program, even an OPM program or an ILE program. Okay, but there would also be other things which we can use. Okay, like TERASPACE, means if a program is having size more than 16 megabytes, then it won't be able to compile in a single level, or it won't be able to run in a single level storage group. Okay, for that purpose that program needs TERASPACE storage group. Okay, so these are the things which I'm gonna cover in this video, so that you must learn some advanced things in the activation group concept. So basically this will also cover your module, service program, procedure things, so which I think you are learning in all the videos. So let's see. So the cases for activation group first. So first case I'll be picking, for example, I am to use a named activation group. Okay, so we know that a service program can only be run in a named or in a star caller activation group. Okay, the another thing is program can be run in new caller or in a named activation group, in all those activation groups. Okay, now what activation group we will be using when we are using a service program? Okay, so the first case is there is one program and there is multiple service programs in your application. So suppose you have built an application which is having a single program which is a main driver program of your system, and that driver program is calling multiple procedures which is present in some service program modules. Okay, means basically they are getting called from a service program. So there are multiple, say hundreds of service programs in your system, and you have only one PGM which is binding all those service programs, or which is using some of all those or some of them maybe. So it depends upon you. Okay, so basically, because the service program can itself bind a service program, as you all know. So if in case you have bind a service program with a service program, and then binded a service program to a PGM, that can also be possible. But for example, then in that case where a one program, a main driver program and other service programs are there in the system, then you must opt for the which activation group. So here is the case, which activation group you should use in that case. So I know, so we know that with service programs we can apply the named or the caller. Okay, so we won't go for the caller, because in case of using the caller, so there might be chances that the program which is calling that may be using some other activation group, so it would go to the uh, that activation group. So for example, okay, but in case of or for example, if you're calling from the command line, then it would go for the default activation group, which should not be the case. Okay, which you should not rely on, or you should ignore always. So you must give a named activation group to your system. So for example, your system is the ERP system or any other system. So in that case, you will be giving the activation group name with your system name, so that you must know that my activation group is my system name, and your all your programs run in your activation group. Okay, so within a single job there are multiple activation groups activated, and all are using their own resources. Okay, so your application is using your own resources, uh, independent resources which are allocated to your activation group in a particular job. Okay, so activation group basically enable you to run your application in an isolated environment without any interference from the outside programs or outside service programs or anything. So every ILE PGM or a service program contain information about the activation group in which it is runs. Okay, so these are the main things which one must know. So what other things I want to tell you here. So we will be going to the demo here once we'll be covering with the top theory. So we know that using create SRVPGM, we have that activation group parameter. Okay, we cannot specify in the source member ACTGRP, because in case of ILE, in case when we are using create PGM or create SRVPGM, because module cannot be compiled in that case, and it won't allow you to write that use that in that source member, because it will give you a compilation error. So default activation group or this keyword is only allowed in case of you are using create bind rpg command. Okay, either star yes or star no, depends upon you. So in case default activation group is set to star no, in case of create bind rpg, then only you will be seeing that activation group keyword. Okay, so in this case, the first case is a main program, and it is basically calling the other service program. So in this case, you always go for the named activation group. Okay, so let's see an example here. So you can see that this is the first service program which I am creating. So this is a no main module which I created. Okay, so this is a no main module. Yes, it has a sub procedure one, prototype, and body and interface, so which is basically summing two numbers and returning the value. Okay, and this is, you can see, is defined as exported, and this is the another service program ACTPGM9FA having sub procedure 2, and this is also no main module, and this sub procedure is exported, and this is doing the difference. Okay, and returning us the different. Now this is the main program of this. Suppose this is an application. Okay, now this application is calling those sub procedure 1 and sub procedure 2, which is actually will be present or reside in service program 1, okay, and the service program 2nd, okay. It will call those procedures and it will display the results. So we will bind those two service programs to the main PGM. So let's compile this. Page down, not page down, just source. Take F10. Okay, you can also create the module for this. Okay, all the modules are created. Now we'll be creating the service program first. Create SRVPGM ACTPGM 9F. ACTPGM 9F is the module. Okay, we are exporting star all. Later I'll be creating a video on this also, that why we are using star all, why we are not using star src file right now, but we must use star source file. Why? I'll be creating a separate video for that, because that is a important topic, a discussion topic, and we must know these things, because we are using these things, and if we don't know the meaning of those things, why we are using those things, we won't be able to judge ourselves or grasp the understanding of these things. Okay, just take F10. So here what I said, I'll be mentioning the named activation group. So the activation group name would be ACTGRP2. Okay, just create. So DSP SRVPGM ACTPGM 9F. Okay, so you can see that activation group is ACTGRP2. Just take F12. Just create another service program 9FA and FA with the named activation, same named activation group. Okay, so if I do DSP SRVPGM again on 9FA, I'll be seeing this activation group ACTGRP2. Okay, now I'll be creating that program, create PGM ACT PGM 9F1 ACT PGM 9F1. Now I'll be binding those service program ACT PGM 9F plus ACT PGM 9FA, and here I'll be giving the activation group as the named activation group ACTGRP2, because if I won't provide that, it will because here it is star entry, so it will go for QILE named activation group, so we would avoid that. Okay, and if we provide star caller, it will go whenever we are calling this program from command line, it will go for default activation group, and our service program will be running in the default activation group, which is bad for us. Okay, we should avoid that also. ACT PGM 9F1. So we will be debugging this. Just set the breakpoint. So once the debug is started, I'll be setting the breakpoint. So we will be learning the things here one by one. So let's first check the work job, just do 18. Okay, so you will be seeing that no activation group is in active state right now. Here you are seeing two default activation groups, number 1 and number 2. So we will be, in case if we are running our program in a default activation group, it will be always running in the number 2. Okay, currently we are not running that in default activation group, so let's call that program ACTPGM 9F. Okay, so we call that program, just check, shift escape 3, then 18. So we are seeing that an activation group is activated named ACTGRP2. So this is the named activation group which we have provided during the compilation of those programs and the service programs. So here you can see the entry of the program ACT9PGM9F1 which we are calling. Okay, and this activation group is in use. Yes, so if in case right now if we try to delete this using reclaim activation group, we won't be able to do that. In case this job ends abnormally, this activation group will be ended automatically. But in case if this program will be successful, okay, then that case this activation group won't get deleted. This named activation group only gets deleted when the job in which that activation group is activated gets ended, or we are explicitly using the reclaim activation group command with star eligible, or by mentioning the name of that activation group. Okay, just take F10. So we are in service program right now, shift escape 318. So we can see that no other activation group is created. We can see the call stack. So from 9F1, 9F procedure, this procedure is called sub procedure 1, which is from service program ACT9PGMF and PGM9F. Okay, just take F10. So it will return the sum and display the sum. Now we will be in the 9FA. It will return the difference. It will display the difference. Okay, so we'll be end debug work job. So we can see that this ACTGRP2 is activated right now. Okay, so it won't get ended, and it shows us this program was running in this, but this is not in use right now, so it can be deleted now. Okay, so either if we want, we can delete it. If you don't want, we won't deleting it. Okay, let it be like this, so that we will be covering our next case after this. So now the other case would be, for example, you have an application where you have a main driver program, okay, and you have multiple programs gets called from that driver program, and those multiple programs are using the multiple service programs. Okay, then that case, what you will be going for, what activation you will be going to choose? Okay, yes, sure, with service program we must be using named activation group or a star caller. But in case, for example, here in case of this service program case, we will be always be using the named activation group. Okay, but in case of multiple programs gets called, we can use the star caller. Okay, and for the main program, yes, if we want that our service program must be run in a named activation group, so we must have to provide a named activation group to the main program. So whenever we are creating the program for main PGM, we will be providing the named activation group in which this service program will be running. Okay, and for multiple programs we will be giving the star caller. So for example, if these programs gets called from this main program, okay, or from somewhere else, so for example, if first program is using this procedure and the second program is using this procedure, so whatever the global variables, if they are accessing, okay, so that would get updated by the first program, and then if second program will go and look into the global variable, it would find the value gets updated. So if in that case it will update that value, it will see, yes, now this, for example, the first program gets to use service procedure 1, and it's updated the sum of two numbers with 15. And other program goes and it also added two numbers, and then it added that 15 plus 15, for example 30. So next time the first program come again, it will see that what is the sum right now. It will see that it is 30. So both the programs can access that value because that service program is in the named activation. So if in case it was in caller, star caller, you won't be able to access it. For example, just take an example of a uh, website. Okay, so in that case, for example, multiple users are coming and you are just um, counting and from various locations or and they are using various functions in your so basically they are interacting with your website, and you just want to store the count. Okay, how many have clicked on this, so on a particular thing, or have chosen particular option. So for example, that option is present on various pages. Okay, and you just okay, so one can opt for that option from various pages. Okay, so various, for example, just take an example. I'm just trying to simulate those things. So those pages will trigger multiple programs from theirs, uh, and they just come to the IBMI. Okay, and then they are basically using the same service program. Okay, now what happened, they're using the same service program if that is in the named activation group. So they are basically calling the same procedure which is in named activation group. So now they can access the values of those variables automatically. Okay, so there will so this thing here, there is a benefit with named when you are basically dealing with the service program. So in case if you are providing new activation group, so every time that program come, a new activation group created, a new that program just do something and then that deleted. Okay, so this will be a hectic task. Okay, so for example, if you're doing complex calculation, or performing you're calling a program multiple times or recursively, and then you are using star new that case, so that will cause a lot for issue. Okay, because that will be overhead, even a performance issue for in that case occur. So you avoid those things like using star new in this in the cases where with the programs. Okay, with those programs where those programs get called multiple times. Okay, so please try to ignore them. So where there is a possibility to call that program only once, then only you can use star new things. And if you don't want that your your variables or your data would be used by anyone else, so there is this is the important thing which one must know. Now I'll be simulating this case here in IBMI. So here we can see this is the first service program having no main module, a sub procedure prototype, sub procedure 1 and sub procedure 1, which is summing two number. Okay, and here you can see I declared one global variable g underscore sum, and I'm updating that variable g with by adding sum. Okay, every time. Now this is the second service program where I am calculating difference and I am summing up the differences every time. Okay, in this global variable, as you can see from this procedure, sub procedure. Okay, so let's create, I will create later. Okay, now there are two programs, as I let you know the case. There were multiple service programs. Okay, and there were multiple programs, and there is a driver program. So here in this program, the first program we can see it is calling that sub procedure 1 and sub procedure 2 and displaying the sum and the difference. Okay, and and PGM2 is also calling subprocedure 1 and subprocedure 2. Basically both programs are same, both programs are calling the subprocedure 1 and subprocedure 2. Okay, basically these two programs are using the same procedures. Okay, so there is no difference between ACT PGM 9G1 and ACT PGM 9G2. Now this is the driver program which is calling that ACT PGM 9G1 and 9G2. Okay, so using both the syntax we can call a program. Okay, this is an optional syntax, that's why I use both, to just let you know that we can use both, but we must go for the second one. Okay, now what I'll be doing, I'll be creating the service. First thing is to create the module for each program, each source member. Okay, before F10, just take F10. So all the modules are created. Now I'll be creating the service program first. Create SRVPGM ACT PGM 9G. The module is ACT PGM 9G. Okay, exporting star all, and then we'll be providing the activation group. So for example, this time I am providing ACTGRP3. Okay, so the same with the other one also, 9GA. Now I'll be creating this programs. These programs create PGM ACT PGM 9G1. ACT PGM 9G1 is the module also. Now we'll be binding the service program ACT PGM 9G ACT PGM 9GA. Now we'll be providing the activation group. Activation group will be ACT GRP3. Okay, sorry, what I would have suggested that the activation group for the multiple program will be star caller. Okay, so we'll be creating that program again. So this can be star caller or named also, because we are running in the same named activation group, so we can also specify this thing, but I'm specifying star caller to just let you show this demo. Okay, so 9G1 is created, 9G2 will get created. Okay, binding those service programs, and thus activation group is star caller. Now for the last and the main service main program, we will be providing the named activation group, because in case if we provide a star caller and we call from command line, then this will actually invoke the default activation group and all those programs or this okay, that program will get called in the default activation group, not in the named activation group. Okay, so this is created now. So if we do DSP PGM ACT PGM 9G3, you can see named activation group ACT GRP3. With 9G2 it is star caller. With 9G1 it is star caller with these two programs. So with the service program ACTGRP3, the named activation group, with another service program, again the named activation group. Just do the debug ACT STGMDL 9G3. Okay, so we'll be setting the breakpoint at line number 1. Just do the work job to see what activation groups are activated. Sorry, 18. So currently ACTGRP2 is activated, which was activated earlier. Now we'll be running call ACTPGM 9H. Sorry, 9G3. Shift escape 3. 18. Now we can see another activation group gets activated, ACTGRP3 in this job. Okay, which is in active state right now, which is in use state. This was not in use state. Okay, so this is called basically this program is getting called ACTPGM93, which we called now. Okay, let's take F10. So we are calling this program. So this is the prototype we can see using XTPGM. Shift F10. So we are now in the caller. So caller will use the same activation group. Okay, so we can see that the main program which is getting called is ACTPGM 9G3. We are in 9G1 right now. Shift F10. Okay, now currently if we look into G underscore sum, it is 0. Okay, now it is updated with 15, displaying the sum. Same with the difference, eval G underscore diff, it is 5 now. Will display the difference. So first program is called, so it has updated those global variables. Now we are running the service program in the named activation group. So if I look into G underscore sum, so I can see that variables are still initialized. Okay, with 15. Now it is updated with the 30. Okay, so this was a thing which I just want to show you. Okay, now if I go to check the activation group, so all those activation groups are activated. Yes, I can delete them using reclaim ACTGRP and star eligible. So I want to delete both, so I'll be using star eligible. 2 activation groups deleted successfully, as we can see. Okay, now we saw that how and where we will be using what activation group. Okay, so with PGMs we can use star new, but it depends, okay, where to use actually, whether that program is called once or it is calling recursively. So it depends upon that situation. So basically we'll go for the caller or the named activation group. So we must, if we will be implementing an ILE application, we must go for those first with the named activation group. Then in their case they have multiple programs, then we can use star caller. In case if only one program and named all those service programs are there, we can use only named activation group. Now I'll be discussing about the storage model parameter and its values. Okay, so this is the most important thing which you must understand. So one important thing which I just want to show you, for example, in this command create bind rpg, where we can either create just take F10. So if I input the name of the program here and I'll create a program, so it will basically create an OPM source. because the default activation group is star yes. So there is no rule of storage model right now, okay, and we cannot see that parameter still, okay. So it will play that role once I set this star default activation group is star no, okay. Then you can see that you will be getting the activation group storage model, and storage model is single level. So these two parameters are actually interdependent. Why and how? Because here you can see three parameters: single level, TERASPACE, inherit, okay. So three parameters are there. So by default OPM source are also running in the single level storage model even. So but this parameter is not applicable for them, okay. So by default they are running in this single level, but if an ILE, we are implementing an ILE application, we can use the other options as well with the storage model. So yes, currently if we are creating a program, it will get created in the single level storage model, okay. So if in case if I am not providing the name of the activation group, so it will go for the storage model. So storage model is basically single level right now. So in case of single level, the activation group which is used is QILE. So one must understand these concepts, okay. So in case if I change it to TERASPACE, in that case if I want to provide the name of the activation group here, so what it will go for QILETS, okay. So you can see here also, just see with storage model, if we want to specify the name of the activation group, so with this one, so it will activate the QILETS activation group when it is called with the TERASPACE, okay. It is created with the TERASPACE storage model. So when a storage model is specified as TERASPACE and activation group is a storage model, then it will go with QILETS named activation default activation group, okay. But in case if it is single level, it will go with QILE, as I already show that QILE in my part 1 activation group video, okay. You can saw there that video, you can visit that video and check. Now what is the basic need, what is the need of these parameters? So storage model, what is storage model basically? Sometimes, for example, if we are creating a program or we are creating service programs and we are declaring the variables, arrays, data structures and various things, pointers or some everything we are declaring in a program or in a service program, okay. So for example, somehow you exceeded the limit of, for example, say 16 megabytes. So if your program size exceeds that limit, so what happened in that case, your program won't get the allocated storage. So in single level storage model, okay, you can only your program must have to be less than 16 MB in size. So if in case if your program is more than 16 MB, then you have to change the storage model to create your program, else you will be getting the compilation error, okay. So in that case you will be using the TERASPACE, okay. So once you are using the TERASPACE and you are not specifying the activation group, okay, then in that case what happens, QILETS activation group will get activated once you call your program, okay. And if the TERASPACE storage model is used, okay, then your program must have to be compiled in using TERASPACE storage model and having more than 16 MB, okay. And one more important thing is, for example, you are using the TERASPACE storage model and the activation group as a storage model, okay. Then in that case, if you are using that activation group, then all the programs if you are interacting with or you're calling in that TERASPACE storage model must be storage TERASPACE, okay, activated with the TERASPACE. In case if they were created with the single level, for example PGM1 and PGM2, PGM2 is created with single level and your PGM1 is created with TERASPACE, and you calling that single level from the TERASPACE from the first program, you will be getting the Okay. Another case, just take an example from the first PGM which is created with the single level and the other PGM which is created with the TERASPACE, and you're calling from first PGM to the another PGM which is in means vice versa. So then also you will be getting an error. Okay. Now the other option was inherit there. Okay, you saw that the other option is inherit. So in case of inherit means just inheriting the properties of the calling program. So it's your caller program. So basically in case of inherit, once you are using inherit here you must have to use the caller here. So you are inheriting the property of calling program, so you must have to use caller here. Okay, so you will be inheriting the storage model which is used by the calling program. Okay, so these are the basic things which you must understand about the storage model and the activation group, which are interdependent to each other. Okay, so I'm giving you an example here which you must understand. Sorry, but I must say before giving that example that I won't be able to run that here because it will hang my system, because this machine won't allow me to run. It doesn't allow me to allowing me to run this. It will hang, it will get hanged once I call that program. Okay, so let's show you how that program gets compiled only. So I'm showing you till the compilation steps. So you can go and on your own machine you can just create that program and you can run that program, and then during debug you can check which activation group is activated. Just take shift escape 3 and option 18. You will be seeing that QILE TS gets activated instead of QILE. Okay, so you will be learning that concept also. Now see this program. So there are various concepts now coming here which I am just showing you. So I have written 2 points here, so that if I'm using a character field, so I can provide a maximum length of 1677310 when varying is 4. Okay, so I can write it like that also. So I cannot provide this length here. This won't allow me, it will come from here and it won't allow me. So I need to write length keyword and then the length. Okay, so same with the graphic also. So graphic is defined with C UCS2. Okay, varying 4. I didn't specify 4, but it will take 4 because the length is 8386550. So for double byte graphic or UCS2 characters, the range can be maximum up to this, and for single byte characters the range can be this. Okay, now I can define like this also for the graphics only. Okay, and that UCS2 8386550 and varying 4. So I define various, you can see that I define various variables just to increase the length of the program. Okay, just to increase the size of the program, length, the size of the program. You can see I took various variables. I defined variables so that the size of the program gets increased, and I would be able to show you some of the part of this demo, not all because I cannot call this program. So just doing 3 simple things, evaluation and not doing anything. So I just defined many variables with these lengths so that the size gets increased. So let's compile this. So once I compile this, so you can see that the module gets created. Yeah, there will be no issue in creating a module in this case. But let's say if I create a program ACTPGM 9H, ACTPGM 9H. Okay, so storage model is single level right now. Okay, just press enter. Now you can see that error encountered during program or service program preparation. So you won't be able to prepare your program right now. just do F1, just take F10, shift F6. You can see that program limitation exceeded. So this is the error which I just want to show you. Okay, so an internal part of the program exceeds allowed size. Okay, so in this case you are getting that error. So what you will be doing, because your program size exceeds but you need to create a program for this, you just want to create a program for this, what you will be doing, just what I taught you, that now we will be using the concept of a storage model here and the activation group simultaneously to create our program. So here what I can provide, I'll not be providing a star inherit, because that is, for that purpose I will have to use star caller as a activation group, but still I didn't provide inherit. That won't solve my issue, that won't compile my program. So I need to use star TERASPACE. Sorry, I written wrongly. TERASPACE. So now storage model is TERASPACE. Okay, so the activation group is star entry module. Okay, so here if I want to provide the activation group, it will go with QILE-TS. Okay, in case of create bind RPG, here we will be, there we can we'll be specifying storage model. Okay, but in case of create PGM, we won't be seeing that storage model thing. Okay, with the activation group. So now if I do DSP PGM on ACT PGM 9H, just check, activation group attribute is QILE-TS. Okay, so the storage model uses star TERASPACE. So now you can see that you will be able to create your program even with the longer sizes. So I if I remember that what a maximum size star TERASPACE allowed is like 100 TERASPACE or something like that. I won't be remembering that thing. So around 100 TERASPACE. So you can check, you can do Google with that. For that I won't remember these things, or I do rarely remember these things. You can check. I think 100 TERASPACE was a limit, but you can confirm on Google or on IBM sites. So you can see that the program and the module is created successfully. Earlier with the single level storage model, you won't be able to create your program because your program exceeded the size, because you declared so much variables of use sizes. Okay, that's why. So this was just this program was just created to show you that demo, that concept of a storage model. I'm not calling this program. Yes, I can call this program and show you these things, that yes, it is running in the QILE-TS. You can also check on your machine, but here if I call this session will get hanged and I won't be able to do anything after that. Okay, then I have to kill this session because this machine won't allow me. So I think I covered various things in this session, and I think now you will be clear. In part 1 you learned the activation groups. Now you are clear when to use what activation group. So when you are building an application for your company or for yourself, then you will be now you grasp the thing that what activation group you will be using or using for your application. Okay, so what better suits for your application, you will be using that. So how you will be deciding that which activation group to be used at this place is covered in this video. I just picked up 2 cases to show you these things. You can go and check with other cases also. There would be multiple cases, multiple scenarios where you can have a better hands-on, and I just show you the storage model things, that how storage model and activation groups are related with each other. Okay, so let's close this call here only. I think this is all from my side in this video, in this part. So later I'll be creating separate videos on activation groups where I'll be telling those overrides, open data path things in the activation groups, or many other things which I would be remembering in case. So let's close this call. Thank you and have a nice time for watching my video, and please enjoy this video. Thank you.